The Organic Trade Association defines genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, as, quote, made with techniques that alter the biology of an organism by means that are not possible under natural conditions. There are numerous concerns and very little independent research about their safety, and the rapid spread of GMOs through our farmland has made genetically modified foods virtually impossible to avoid, unless you know what to look for. So,
we'll get back to knowing what to look for in a second. Not only are they genetically modifying our plants, they are genetically modifying our animals. And in fact, they're taking genes from animals and putting them in plants, and plants from plants and putting them in animals. They've been doing it in the United States since 1994. We've been eating it. A lot of people don't even know they're eating it. Like, let's take rbgh for instance. rbgh. Now, today we will be discussing the implementation of and the alteration of genetically modified organisms into our food supply, and what this really means, and the numerous countries who have outlawed this practice, and the arm-bending attempts from the genetically modified organism companies, such as Monsanto, which actually holds the largest portion of genetically modified foods on this planet. I think they hold 80 at least % of the market. So, Monsanto.
There is enough scientific data that points to a concern for increased cancer rates in humans.
Well, the whole rbgh thing represents fundamental flaws in the regulatory process.
We allow rbgh to go on and ensure that we are taking excessive risks with society.
Our choices about the foods we eat are among the most important decisions we make about our health. Our bones, organs, and cells are built of food. Even our mood, energy level, and ability to think clearly are affected by what we buy at the grocery store. As our food changes, so do we. But are the changes taking place in our food supply beneficial? Consider milk, the traditional symbol of purity and nutrition, especially for children. But some milk has undergone a radical change. It's not the same wholesome milk our grandparents drank, and many experts believe this altered milk is leading to cancer and other serious problems. The altered dairy products were introduced in 1994 when farmers started injecting their cows with rbgh.
rbgh stands for recombinant bovine growth hormone, which means genetically engineered bovine growth hormone. rbgh is also known as rbst. It's the same thing. It is a genetically engineered hormone developed to force cows to produce more milk, typically 5 to 15% more milk.
It speeds up their metabolism, whether more feed in their...
And they're saying that they were producing way more milk than they needed when they brought this out, dude. And, the other countries that have outlawed it said they felt like they were being strong-armed and lied to, the people in the parliaments of the said countries and congresses or whatever they have. They were like, we were strong-armed, lied to, they kept information away from us so that we would pass this, we feel bullied, and this is a travesty. Monsanto, again.
Jeffrey Smith is an international best-selling author and expert on the health risks of genetically engineered foods.
Nearly 1 out of every 6 dairy cows in the United States are injected with this pharmaceutical drug, which critics call crack for cows. Studies show that it decreases the nutritional content while it increases the amount of antibiotics, the amount of hormones, and the amount of pus. It's marketed by Monsanto under the brand name Posilac, and they want more cows in this stuff.
But for to every eligible cow, as each cow not treated is a lost income opportunity.
rbgh scientists genes from cows and certain E. coli bacteria. We genetically engineered E. coli that produces the cow's hormone. The number of hormone stimulates another powerful hormone called IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1. The milk from treated cows has much higher levels of IGF-1, and that's a big problem.
Dr. Danny Pompilio of Oregon Physicians for Social Responsibility told a TV interviewer why her organization is trying to get rbgh taken off the market.
But we at Oregon PSR believe in the science, and there's enough scientific data that points to a concern for increased cancer rates in humans. rbgh increases the IGF-1 in cow's milk, and this is not disputed. It's also not disputed that elevated levels of IGF-1 can promote cancer in humans.
Harvard study showed that men with high levels of IGF-1 are 4 times more likely to develop prostate cancer, premenopausal women are 7 times more likely to develop breast cancer, it's indicated among colon cancer, and a recent study indicated IGF-1 in higher rate of fraternal twins. In fact, in the United States, we have twice the rate of increase of fraternal twins than in the UK, where rbgh is banned.
Almost all the industrialized countries of the world have banned this. This includes Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and all 25 countries of the European Union. Not only that, the Codex Alimentarius, which is the UN's main food safety body, voted and said we cannot guarantee that this is safe.
A European Commission reports
Codex Alimentarius. Even though this guy makes it sound a little cool because they're saying nah to the rbgh. You do not want Codex Alimentarius. Codex Alimentarius will control everything that you consume and how much of it. You do not want Codex Alimentarius. If you want vitamin A because you think it's going to cure something and you go to the store to buy it, you're going to have a prescription. They're going to call it a drug.
that avoidance of rbgh dairy products in favor of natural products would be the most practical and immediate dietary intervention to achieve the goal of preventing cancer.
The approval of rbgh in 1993 was probably one of the most controversial decisions the FDA ever made.
It was a revolving door between Monsanto and the FDA. The person in charge of policy at the FDA when rbgh was approved was Michael Taylor, Monsanto's former attorney, and later vice president. Now, Miller worked on rbgh issues doing research for 5 years at Monsanto, then became FDA branch chief in the division that evaluated her own research. Stephen Fetchit worked for Monsanto doing research on rbgh, and then became the primary FDA review officer for rbgh. One of the main problems with the FDA review of the drug was that they treated it as an animal drug, and looked at it as a human drug. So they failed to take into consideration most of the possible health effects.
A human drug requires 2 years of benefit to be tested. An expensive dose.
Anyways. So, are you feeling distorted yet? I'm feeling distorted. We have a big, huge company that states on their webpage, and I've seen the CEO state their plan is to control all foods from cradle to grave, and the only way they can do that is by genetically modifying the food and patenting it and saying they own it. And this food that they plant will pollinate other plants, and when it pollinates other plants, it will, in fact, be claimed by the company that has switched the genes from one plant to another once they find it in the plant, or one animal to a plant, once they find it in somebody else's plant, which is an inevitability since they let the plants pollinate other plants, meaning that you should see what's going on with that. It's destroying all the other regular plants. It's making them grow and not be functional and be weird looking. But here's Monsanto, the biggest one of them all. Please watch The World According to Monsanto. This is the Fox investigator reporters that was just, the investigators just came into play right as soon as Rupert Murdoch had bought the Fox stations. And when they started to do this bovine growth hormone story that they wanted to do, Monsanto called them, threatened to take away all their advertisement, told them they can't do it, and they were blackballed, the people who were trying to do the investigation, for 8 months until they were fired. But here we go. Here's their story. Fox News, right at the beginning of Rupert Murdoch's reign.
Injecting into their cows so that they would produce more milk.
With Monsanto, I didn't realize how effectively a corporation could work to get something on the marketplace. The levels of coordination they had to have. They had to get university professors into the fold. They had to get experts into the fold. They had to get reporters into the fold. They had to get the public into the fold. And of course the FDA, let's not leave them out. They had to get the federal regulators convinced that this was a fine and safe product to get it onto the marketplace. And they did that. They did that very, very well.
It's a great time to be a high-producing cow. Posilac One Step, bovine somatotropin by Monsanto.
The federal government basically rubber-stamped it before they put it on the marketplace. The longest test they did for human toxicity was 90 days on 30 rats.
Posilac is the single most tested new product in history and is now available to you specifically so you can increase your profit potential.
And then either Monsanto misreported the results to the FDA, or the FDA didn't bother to look in depth at Monsanto's own studies.
The scientists within Health Canada looked very carefully at bovine growth hormone and came to very different conclusions than the Food and Drug Administration in the U.S. did.
Monsanto's engineered growth hormone did not comply with safety requirements. It could be absorbed by the body and therefore did have implications for human health. Mysteriously, that conclusion was deleted from the final published version of their report.
They knew there were problems. They saw serious potential human health problems, and they stood up in Canada and said, we're not going to approve this because we don't believe it's safe.
We have been pressured and coerced to pass drugs of questionable safety, including the RBST. I personally was very concerned that there's a very serious problem of secrecy, conspiracy, and things of that nature, and something needs to be done.
The FDA was then on the hot seat. They had to come up with an answer. They didn't come up with a good one. And they never took the opportunity then. I mean, what would they do? Pull it off the market and say, we need to now do the job that we didn't do the first time? They didn't do that.
We wrote the story. We had it ready a week beforehand. They bought ads.
Farmers in the milk industry say it's safe, but studies suggest a link to cancer. Don't miss this special report from the
That
investigators.
Friday night before the Monday this series was to begin.
Well, anyways, they threatened and got them to stop the story. The people who were doing the story tried for 8 months to get the story out there, but to no avail. And then they had to sue, and then they got messed up on the technicality. Thank you for watching Don't Tread on Me, November 27, 2009. Please stay tuned for the next episode. Subscribe, and investigate yourself, people. Don't just take it from me.